is. I have absolutely no idea what's happening. I don't know what I'm doing, but you know, we'll wing it. My name is Chris Kirkman. I'm co-host of State of Games and the Geek All-Stars. I'm going to introduce our panel here. I'll be doing moderation, asking them a few questions about our topic today. Down here on our right, we have W. Eric Martin. He is the news editor of BoardGameGeek.com. We have Tom Vasel, who is president and head dude at the Dice Tower. Russ, Wakelin, co-host of the D6 Generation podcast. Charlie Hall, who is features editor, is that correct?
Features writer.
Features writer.
Thanks for the promotion.
Oh, there you go. Features writer, Polygon, and Aaron Zimmerman, editor at Ars Technica. So we're going to be running through today. So today we're going to be talking about role selection, which basically means we all own too many board games. And I'm sure all of you can relate, or otherwise you wouldn't be here. So pretty much what we're going to be doing is opening up some questions to the panel and how to select the best games for the greatest impact in certain situations. I'm going to just start off really quickly. This is completely off script, but I want to ask, start with you, Eric, how many board games do you own?
I don't know, but around 2,500.
Yeah. He's got furniture made out of board games, I've seen it, so yeah, it's a lot of board games. Tom, about the same, or?
370.
770, exactly?
Give or take one.
Give or take one? Okay, that's perfect. Russ?
Only about 150, but way too many miniatures.
Yeah, but some of those games are like take up a whole room.
Yeah.
They do. I've probably got about 50 right now on the various shelves around the house. I tend to donate them after a couple of years, though. There's a school in Chicago that does games-based learning, so just like bring a trunk load over to
That's great.
Whenever I can, otherwise I'll run out of room.
I'm sort of the same. I have sort of the rotating cast, and I'm between 50 and 100 probably.
Eric wins.
So I guess part of this, the subset, is also the same thing that you guys do down at the end. You're trying to rotate and keeping your library under control, and some of that has to do with how you choose what to play with a group or what you also like to play. So let's also, we'll start off talking about this. What things matter to you as far as what you bring out in a game that you present to people? Is it going to be something you want to present to a large group? Do you normally get together a group that has a specific mindset? What exactly matters the most to you and how you select what type of game you bring to the table? Who wants to take that first? Nobody. No one. Let's start with you then, Eric.
Oh, I was hoping not to. Mostly because the qualifications vary a lot.
It does, yes.
Based on that. Because of course, I imagine as with Tom, we have new games that we receive from publishers that they would like coverage as soon as possible. So,
right.
Yes, if you wouldn't mind, and you sometimes do what you can just to play something early because you're excited about it and want to try something out.
But there's beautiful, yeah.
There are a lot of
variables. That wasn't fair to you. I know, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, we can just play off that. I don't know, and everything. But it's more, who am I playing with? Right? How many people do I have? Is my son there who's 8? Then that puts a lot of limitations already just on terms of how much attention is going to be paid to the game. So a lot of factors that go into play. Who else is at the table with you? Someone else wants to carry on from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, if people, for me, I'm like, we're playing a new game, and you don't want to play the new game, there's another table of people playing an old game, and I'm lucky that there's that big enough group that I can do that. But if I'm playing a game that's not for review purposes, unless it's with my kids, I have to like the game. I'm not going to sacrifice my time playing a game I don't like, even if you like it. And I know it's mean, but there's like a gazillion games. So there's a game that you like and I like. We'll find that happy medium. But someone will be like, I know you hate diplomacy, but let's play it. No. It's not going to. Again, the exception is my kids. I'll play some games I hate because they're my kids. So other than that, that's my main thing. Do I enjoy the game and do we have enough time to play it?
Okay. So we done? Sure. I've got, there's probably like 3 or 4 different audiences that I'm choosing games for. The most important to me, mainly because it keeps me employed, is the readers at Polygon. And so those folks at Polygon, I imagine, but I imagine that they don't play as many board games as I do. And so I'm trying to find board games that would appeal to folks that are interested in video games, not necessarily specific video games, but like video game themes. Like I just reviewed a 4X board game because my mind, that's not a board game that you see very often, but it's a video game genre that we have so many of. There's a fighting game board game. I forget, Indimes or something? I forget the
War of Indimes.
Yeah, War of the Indimes. And that's just a fascinating concept to me and very interesting and relatable to my readers. So I'm looking also for those games that really break out, something like Kingdom Death or Seafall. It's just a seminal piece that is news and needs to get in front of our readers. The other real important audience for me, though, is my wife. Because I like to spend time with my wife doing stuff other than builds. So in the last couple of years, I've really gone on this adventure with her to try and find more board games that we can play together or we can play with another couple. And so looking for, not the most complex, certainly not the most boring games, just ones that are going to, suit games that she's played previously and games that we've played together previously. So I've got the very public audience, and I've got the very intimate audience at home.
I have basically two main groups that I play with for fun when I'm not reviewing. I have a Friday night sort of casual tacos and beer group, and I go to a meetup every other week where we sit and play the hardcore Euros for 6 hours. So those are two very different groups, and I think if I had any advice, especially to newer gamers, it's to know your audience and to be honest with yourself about where your audience is at, because if you try to, I think there's an idea that there's a trajectory that every board gamer takes. Maybe you start with party games and then you go to some gateway games and then you work your way up, but that's not necessarily the truth for everyone. Not everyone wants to make it to Terra Mystica and Twilight Imperium and everything. So know your group. You'll be a lot happier.
The only thing I would add is it's definitely all about your audience, right? But one of the things that I guess I'm a little different than everybody up here is that I'm not. Our podcast, we just pick games that we like to play and we talk about them. And what that allows us to do is we just talk about the stuff that we find enjoyable. And I look and find games that I can do for theme nights, because I think one of the things that we face nowadays is there's so many good games. It used to be that if you were a Star Trek fan, right, there wasn't really a good Star Trek board game. There just wasn't. Now there's many to choose from. And so if you want to play a 4X game, you don't have to just play, there's many, many great ones to choose. Why not choose one in a genre that your audience will like? And why not have a nice themed evening, have a Game of Thrones board game night, or have a game that you think that your group will really be passionate about. People are generally more inclined to learn a game they haven't played before if it's in a genre they're really excited about. My girls are that way. They like Dungeons and Dragons. So if I can bring out a board game set on the Sword Coast, they're all in, right? So that kind of thing. So again, it's all about the audience.
Yep, all good answers. I like your topic, or at least your approach, Russ, in that you can try to think about a theme or something that somebody may be passionate about outside of games and get them into it, so then you can try to determine. From that point, though, if you do get a game in front of someone and you play it, maybe a couple times, hopefully more, or whatever, what makes you want to come back to that game to approach it for more people? Other than the fact that it's fun, obviously, but what factors could really make you want to spread that to others? Not only that, but keep it in your collection and get it on the table over and over. Anybody?
One thing that about a game that's going to keep it in my collection and not get donated or recycled to the high school in Chicago is if it's fun for me to teach. I really, more often than not, I like to be like just the fifth person at a 4-player game. I like to watch people experience the game. I like to game master games. So if it's fun to present, if it's fun to teach the rules, if there's a twist to it. I mentioned Kingdom Death earlier. That's a game that just really presents well. You lift the box lid off, and it sits in front of you at the table as you kind of explain how the game works, and you deliver the cards out of the box to the players at the table. So that's one that's going to stay in my collection for a long time. The Polygon collection for a long time.
Nice plug, by the way.
Not mine.
Anything else?
I mean, one thing I have is I do a meetup group, and I have lots of new people who come to the house all the time. And I typically introduce them to the same games all the time, because everyone else will know the game, and now there's a new person comes in and they can play with people who are already familiar and already knows how it works. So we'll start with Diamant, which is a press your luck game, very simple. Also publishes Ink and Gold. And Play Bonanza, which is a trading game. So it's a lot of interaction with this new person around the table, where everyone else already knows how to play, but when you make sure you're trading with a new person, doing things with them, and get a lot of interaction with them face to face, instead of doing something where you're more focusing on the table, but keeping the people around.
I subscribe a bit to the Jones theory. Cody Jones made that, you know, where basically if a game fits in a bucket, I think was his terminology, you don't need another game of that. And to some degree that's true. I won't play a specific game if I like another game better. And this is not true for everyone, but for example, Caverna replaced Agricola for me. Those are really similar, but I might have two dungeon crawl games. Does Gloomhaven replace Descent? I mean, is there a reason for me to own both of them? Because I'm realistically, every time I'm presented with the opportunity to play that kind of game, I'm likely gonna pick the one I like better. So why own both of them? And if it's really hard, a very practical thing to do is store your game collection at other people's houses. And by what I mean, if someone else in your group has that game, and you're gonna always play the game with that person, let them own it. You don't need to own it. I don't own Twilight Imperium 3 because like 3 guys in my group have it. I'm never gonna play without one of those 3 guys. So why should I take up that much shelf space? And you know, I don't own that game, but I do. It's just at their house.
I think that's, I do the same thing. So I try to have my favorite game of each genre that I enjoy, but I also there is a collectability element to board games. I don't know if any of you guys out there fall to this trap. So there are some games that, and it's all about components for me. So if it's a really beautiful game, like I still have the original edition of Rune Wars. So the original Rune Wars has little plastic mountains that shoot up through the board and all the little pieces, and it's just awesome. And they've done a reprint that's got half the stuff in it. It's not as cool. It's much easier to put on your shelf though. So I still have that. I still have the original StarCraft board game. Like certain games I just keep because they look awesome and they're great to bring out. And there's better version of Dudes in the Maps games now than StarCraft or Rune Wars, but it's just like, I don't know, they have a sentimental value and they look really cool on the table. But unless it's got that if it's an abstract game or something, I'll probably just move on to the next better version.
Yeah, I tend to get caught up with collecting stuff too, but I actually haven't bought many board games in the past several years, and part of that's because I'm reviewing stuff, so I don't have time to indulge in every game that I want to play. But also, I go to this meetup, and I'm just going to talk about how awesome meetup is today because it's amazing.
Different games. And the week before, I was at New York, and I took photos of, I don't know, 100 different games. And 2 weeks before that, I was in Germany, and we recorded videos of 100 games. And people ask me, oh, what did you think about this game? It's like, I recorded a video, and then I left. I don't know. It's all on tape, and you can, you know, learn as much as I did. And it's hard to process all that, and so some ways you don't need to know about all that. You can just, don't worry about finding the best, but find people you like to play with, and then just pick something, and it'll probably be a success. So, that's what I think. There's a lot of people on BGG all the time, should I get this, or should I get this? This or get this? Don't worry about maximum satisfaction on that one particular game choice. Just pick one and keep playing that, and you'll probably do just fine.
Sometimes that'll lead to something sitting on the shelf for 5 or 6 years of shrink ring.
If you buy more inside.
Well, it's also the whole fear of missing out. Right. I bought the wrong game. No, you didn't. Did you just have fun playing that game? Then you didn't buy the wrong game.
Yes.
Well, I'm in a different position than you guys there at the other end of the table. I'm really only looking for the loudest or the most interesting or the most obscure games that kind of fit in with our reader base. But one of the things that I've done over the last 7-8 years is just, I follow something silly like 1,300 people on Twitter. It's just dumb to follow that many people and hope to make sense of it all. But I'll I'll spend a lot of time just kind of watching it fly by, and it's like redhead, brunette, like it's the Matrix going by, right? But the way Twitter works, the way I like it so much is because it's about conversations, and it's about people sharing with each other and talking about what they'll be doing later on. And it's a lot about what are the work that I do writing features for Polygon as well. They're personal stories. And so I'm interested in what other people are talking about, what other people are playing. I didn't know anything about Gloomhaven until like 2 people that I follow on Twitter were like, oh, we both bought Gloomhaven and it showed up. I'm like, what's a Gloomhaven? I should learn more about this because people that I respect and people that I follow socially are talking about it. So.
My absolute favorite way to find out about new games is actually this. It's PAX East and conventions. So like I go to Gen Con every year, I go to PAX. PAX is easy for me because I live up the street. Yeah. But what's fantastic about these events is you get to go and talk to the designers. I mean, when else do you get to actually sit there with a guy who's really passionate about what he or she built? You don't have to be a podcast host. You can walk up to these people, especially in the outer edge, you know, all the independent folks, and you sit down and they'll more than happily share the game to you, what they were thinking about, what they like about it, and you can actually play the game before you spent the dime, and really find a great thing for you, and you'll, you know, I just found this game, it's called Haiku Warrior. It's an RPG you play haikus in. You got to talk in haikus. And I have a good friend of mine who's on our podcast. We make this joke, we've had contests on the show about making haikus. I'm like, I gotta get, this is just like the dream game for him, you know? So like, you find these kind of things because you come to these conventions, and I think it's really just a great way to do that. It's a very social experience. Where else you can go with people? So it's that's the way I like to find games.
Yeah, this is my first PAX, but I can't get enough Gen Con. It'll be my 10th Gen Con. I've never bought a single ticket to a table at Gen Con. I get everything I need right at the booth. Like
I just live in the vendor hall.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I never leave.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting with Russ, though, picking out the haiku game, it's picking it out because of the person.
Right. Yeah.
It's not because of the game.
Exactly. Right.
It's the person you're playing with, and you think that.
Well, I know my group will play. Like I know, I don't want to buy a game that I love, but I know the rest of my friends are like, that's not a game for me, right? You want to get a game that your game group's going to like, or subsets of your group. And you brought up the meetup earlier. I'm also in a regular group. We play every Tuesday, like religiously, and the group's grown now to like 50 people or so. And it's a great way. They all get, you know, as you mentioned before, all those things. But it's a great. I'm looking for games that fit into different niches in that group. You know, the RPG guys, and the miniature gamers, and the haiku fanatics.
Yeah, I'd echo Eric by saying if you want to be judicious about your buying, then just don't follow it because you're going to head down a dark path. But another place I go is the board gaming subreddit. I don't know if anyone goes there, but that's kind of like, this is the stuff that rises up that you kind of need to know about. The big stuff. And again, like, I'm sorry, Charlie, like Charlie was saying, like for us, it's the same sort of thing. We need to target our stuff towards mostly video gamers. And yeah, so I like to see the high level stuff.
Okay. But one thing I would warn people on, a lot of people mention Twitter and Facebook and things that rise to the top. There is some artificial that happens sometimes, and it mostly, I like Kickstarter, but it's mostly centered around Kickstarter with hype, right?
Right.
Some people talk about a game, other people talk about a game, and it's like, wow, everyone's talking about this game. Sometimes it's not everyone talking about games. Sometimes it's 5 people, but they talk about it so much, it looks like everyone's talking about it, or people are telling them to shut up about talking it, so they're actually talking about it also. But what I mean is sometimes the hype for these games is at a point where when you buy the game, there's no way it's going to be as good as you think at that point, because the hype was that strong. And I found a lot of these games have fizzled when they actually finally came out. But when you hear a whole lot about the game before it's even released, many times it's not even, like, you talk about Gloomhaven because it finally came out.
Right.
But there are games that have not come out yet that people are like screaming about. We don't even know if the game's good yet or not.
Yeah. Well, there's this unusual thing that I found in following Kickstarter and following board game Kickstarters especially. I keep seeing these games that I've never heard of that have embedded in the Kickstarter like 5 or 6 people's YouTube videos, like promoting and showing off the game. That's just not, I mean, in the video game space we do a lot of previews and stuff, but we're not actually embedded within the sales page, us on camera selling that product. It's very unusual to me. We do previews, you'll see like quotes from previews that outlets like Polygon and Ars Technica would do, but it's not like we're like participating. I don't know.
Well, I think the board game space is, I mean, just slightly different from video game space than that, because it's not quite as prolific. And I mean, that's
getting there.
Certainly getting there. Yeah, but we're getting there.
There's something like 3,000 board games added to BoardGameGeek last year, was it? I want to say there was more than that.
How many? More than that. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's
I want to say it was something like 8,000 that was added to Steam, so you guys are getting there.
Yes, it's a ridiculous number of games.
and they're big and heavy.
Yeah.
Not all of them, that's true. You got one right there.
Yeah, well.
There you go. So piggybacking a little bit on what Tom was talking about elevated hype. Sometimes when you're picking a game not only to play but to buy, that hype kind of gets out there. Are you guys familiar at all with BoardGameGeek? Do you go on BoardGameGeek?
Oh my God, it's like my Bible.
Okay, awesome. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here.
It's how I track who the publisher is and all that stuff. And I actually built my own. I built my own Dune because Dune is out of print. I actually went to BoardGameGeek and downloaded all the parts and pieces to build my own Dune set. It's glorious. It cost me like $400.
Worth every penny.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Well, as far as bringing that up, one of the things that I wanted to mention, which is slightly tangential to what was brought up here, is the BoardGameGeek Top 100. So, as far as deciding what not only you play, but you choose to play with others, or what you choose to buy, how much credence should they lend to the top 100? Some people set out on a quest to play all the top 100 games, and some people maddeningly only play the top 100 games. So, how much?
I don't know if I've ever. Have you met someone?
Yeah, 2 people.
Really?
They play anything unless it's the top 100.
That's a sad life.
Seriously. You're missing out.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the top 100 can be a good choice if you have very little experience and yet for some reason want to try something. That's like a weird point. But if you've encountered other humans, they might have games that they already enjoy and will suggest for you that they enjoy playing, and you can play that. I mean, the top 100 out of a database of 87,000 games and growing continually, the top 100 is not very much.
Is it only playing the top 100? That's kind of like only watching the movies nominated for Best Picture. You're missing out on so much awesome, right? I mean, I feel like that's...
You never watch a Marvel movie, you know?
You never see Star Wars.
I mean, it's an aggregate vote of tens of thousands of people, and that can be worthwhile if you're not sure where to go. But I have some of my favorite games where they're rated 6, no one else likes them. For me, it's perfect. It's what I want, and that's sort of the challenge of finding this game here. You don't want to get hamstrung with the recommendations or people telling you don't play that, that's a bad game. For you, maybe it's the best game ever. And so you have that balance.
You won't go wrong, I guess. The top 100 is pretty solid, but there are some games in there that are only in the top 100 because people only play the game because they already knew they were going to like it. Like a good example is Twilight Struggle. Twilight Struggle is a great game. I like it a lot, but my wife would never play it. Right?
A 3-hour game?
A 3-hour, 2-player game about the folklore, that's not her thing. So she would never rate that game, therefore it's going to obviously be rated higher because people who play it tend to like it. So that's kind of there, you just have to realize that.
So sort of tying into this is the notion there's the cult of the new, people who only want to play the newest games, and the notion that newer games have an easier time of getting into the top 100. Which has been true, but part of that is due to the strength of the industry as a whole and the proliferation of games on the market. Because there are so many games. When I really got in the hobby in 2003, I would just play whatever was in front of me because other people wanted to play it. But now there's so many games I can play what I want exactly and not have to play the stuff that Tom wanted to play at the table, right? We've got our own tables. So I'm already pre-selecting and playing the things that I like. So naturally my rating is going to be higher than when I played all the stuff that everyone else wanted to suggest. There's so many games now. If you want to play only trick-taking games, you can do that your whole life and still never experience all of them.
I'm one of those strange people in the video game space that absolutely hates review scores. I hate them. I don't want them. I don't want them on my site. of course, it's not up to me, so they're on their site. And I think that the review score, and similar to the ranking, has so little to do with my opinion of the game. It's all about who it's for, what it's about, what it represents, what makes it unusual, what makes it the best of its type. And that's in the words, not in the number.
But scores on BoardGameGeek are even more problematic because of hype. You have games that haven't even come out yet that are on Kickstarter that people rate, hey, 10, 10, 10, I backed at 10, and then there's other people who are like, oh, 1, I'm trying to, even stuff out.
You know what we should do is get one as Warrior. We should get set up on ratings Warrior, even it right out.
Yeah, I agree with you on the whole score thing. So on our show, we have this extremely convoluted, impossible to follow scoring system that adds no value whatsoever. And the goal there,
that's true,
is to thank you, Tom. The goal there is to really, we spend the time talking about how the game works and what we like about the game and what we don't. We spend way too long on it. If you ask Tom about the game. But the reason we do that is so you can hear what it is and you can make the decision yourself. But I do think there's a little value. Like, I kind of know BoardGameGeek scores. I don't really look at the rating overall, like where the game lives in the top game list. But I do, if I'm looking at a new game and I haven't seen it played before, I'm not really sure about it, I will check BGG to see, is it above a 7 or is it below a 7? If it's above a 7, whether it's a 7 or a 9, that doesn't matter to me, but if it's below a 7, I would not buy it, but I'll at least look a little deeper, read the reviews, kind of dive in a little bit. If it's above a 7, it's probably okay.
We're over here laughing because that's just how video games work too.
Exactly right. It's exactly the same as video games because I read Game Informer and all that stuff and I read your guys' sites. And it's the same thing. It's like I get there and I'm like, well, if it's above a 7, it probably doesn't suck.
We still get hate mail at Polygon because we gave a particular game a 7.5 4 years ago. That is just, yeah.
Right.
So to play
you know what I'm talking about too.
And some of my favorite board games are like 7.1.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
So to play off what Russell mentions, one way to use BGG, which is an overwhelming site, I will completely confess to that. But if you find people that you like, or simpatico, or people in your play group, and they're members as well, you can choose them as a geek buddy. And you can do this with all the people that you think mesh with you as geek buddies. And then if you go to your profile and look at your geek buddies, you can see just what those people are rating.
Yeah.
So it's making your own recommendation panel among your friends or people who you know, and that is more customized to what you want rather than en masse.
Yeah, it's a very underutilized feature, but it's a great feature.
Yeah.
And everybody should be a geek buddy with your hipster friend, your hipster board game friend. I'm just going to throw that out there because you find a lot of weird things you would normally find that aren't going to be in the top 100 by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm not sure if anybody gets that.
That's what I'm playing.
you and Matt Wolf, yes.
That's right. We do videos based on what we think everyone else wants to see.
Sure.
And then I am playing an obscure Japanese game that had about 200 copies printed. Because that's what I want.
Well, that factors into it too. Sometimes you want to find that obscure title. I do this sometimes when I see a movie. Like, sometimes a movie is so bad, it's like, I absolutely have to see it.
Right.
Like, people are talking about it, and they're like, do you often find, well, I don't even want to ask you, because I know your opinion, you're going to say, yes, you can play it, because you're going to review it, and then be real nice about it. Super sweet.
No, there's...
No, I know.
Because so many games come out now, a publisher will say, hey, I have a game. I'll say, can I see the website? And
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, we're full. I don't have room to review your game this decade. Because there are some games that you can tell, and I'm not going to play a bad game just to say I've done it.
I got you. Would you guys do it?
This is kind of funny. The Diana Jones Award is an award that's given every year at Gen Con. And I learned that it stands for Indiana Jones, which is, rumor has it, the very worst TSR role-playing game ever made. So I bought one, and it's terrible. But yeah, as far as new games go, though, I mean, I'm looking for stuff that's really good, really interesting, really going to engage with my audience. I'm not going to hit the smaller stuff unless it really, really, really stands out. We certainly have written about a lot of those Polygon, but yeah.
We've done a couple of those. One of the things that's challenging about games that we don't care for is because we have a long format review, no one wants to listen to us talk for 40 minutes about a bad game.
I do.
So to help us out with that, one game, and I'm just going to mention this game, not because it necessarily is bad, but it just did not resonate with my co-host and I, Craig. Are You a Traitor? Was not a good game for us. But we wanted to talk about it because we felt it was so not a good fit for us. I'm trying to kind of be like nice here. So not a good fit for us. I really wanted to talk about it. So we talked about a game we liked that we thought was similar, but we thought was superior. So we kind of did it to, Are You a Traitor versus Werewolf, and kind of said, well, we really prefer Werewolf in this scenario. But sometimes we get a game that's so not our style, we have to talk about it because it's just like this doesn't fit.
Yeah, I feel like bad movies can be good and bad games just can't. That said, we did review the Trump board game last year.
Oh, you too?
That's Trump. That's trash. Yeah, but it was fun. It was fun.
Was it?
I mean, it was the experience was fun. Oh. The game, no.
All right, well, we're bringing this back around to PAX. So in regards to conventions, and all of you go to different conventions, but a lot of the same throughout the years, what do you choose to play specifically in a convention environment? Like, what is the best things in your collection or in your mind? I know what your answer is. But what do you normally would think would be the best to play in a convention environment, and how do you make your best use of your time in a convention environment so you can get the most out of that? Other than the fact you mentioned go to the vendors and do demos, because that's obviously a fantastic way.
Is this us or what we recommend?
What's your recommend?
Okay, yeah.
You can do both. It's fun.
You should play. I mean, it depends. Some people want to go to a convention to play a game all day long. I'd rather do that at home. But some people, that's the only chance they have to play an 8-hour game is here, so they do it. That's fantastic. But I always find that there's those games, if you feel like you can't play it anywhere else, like Captain Sonar, that needs 8 people to be perfect. Well, not everyone has 8 people at their game table, but you can definitely find that at a convention. Some party games work really well at conventions because you don't irritate the Magic the Gathering players because they're in a different room. I mean, I think party games go best at conventions for me. I have a lot of fun with them, but I also get to play, I like teaching new games to people. I don't know, it's just a chance to play what you want. That game that your group yells about every time you pull it out, you can play it here.
When I'm going to conventions, I'm always looking for appointments and meetings. Like I came from one meeting to this panel and I was almost going to be late, and then I got another meeting right after this panel, so I never get to sit down and actually play the games that I want to play. So what I would recommend to you is to find out way ahead of time what games are going to be run that you really enjoy playing. And so what I mean by that is like when you go to Gen Con, for instance, again, it's my first PAX East, I don't know how it works here, but there'll be people that'll volunteer, like run a game. There's like this beautiful Flames of War diorama, or this Battletech thing you've never seen before. There was a 1776 board at Gen Con last year that was bigger than this table, all done up with little moss things. I love all of these games. So why not play them with other people who are super enthusiastic on the Cadillac of hobby setups, right there on the convention floor, and then go back to what you're doing. Role-playing games, I really wish that I had more time to play, like sit down and play 4 hours of D&D with 4 other D&D nerds at a convention. I would love that, but I never can do that.
I'd echo that. I think I have friends of mine that are in my little game group that go to conventions and they just hang out with each other the entire time and play games with themselves. Yeah. And like Tom, I can do that at home. So I guess there's the personal me, which is I get to meet people like that I interact with online all the time, like Tom and others here, who I hang out with virtually. So it's nice to see them in person, maybe play a game with them. But the other thing I really enjoy is playing games for the first time with people I've never met. There's very little more fun than playing Werewolf at midnight with 20 people you don't know. That is an awesome, awesome experience. And play it back to back, because you start to learn about them, and it's just a really interesting way to meet new people. And also, for the first time at 2 Gen Cons ago, I played Dungeons & Dragons with people I didn't know. And a lot of people don't play role-playing games that you don't know. That's also a very interesting, it sort of forces you to become an extrovert a little bit and learn more about yourself. But I thought that was a lot of fun too. And then again, being able to play games with the actual designers, because it's really fun, especially if they're a first-time designer, it's a lot of fun to watch them see their game create joy in you. Like, they love nothing more than that, and so to have that experience and watch them geek out about that is a lot of fun for me too, so that's what I like.
A little etiquette thing when we're talking about it.
Sure.
You're walking around the vendor floor. You're going to do it later today, right? Okay? Don't sit down and play the entire game Please don't do that. Like, don't sit at this poor guy's table for 3 hours and just dominate that game. Of course, they'll make them work to demo the game for you, and that doesn't mean just starting at the beginning and getting to the end. It means showing me what makes your game unique and unusual. Get that experience, and don't be afraid to like get up after like 10, 15 minutes if it's not doing it for you, or if you get it. Like, just move on. Be like, I get it. We're good.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Running a booth here, we will demo as much as you want us to demo. We will run anything, I'll teach you anything. But yeah, if you only want 5 minutes in the overview, let us know. If you're done after 10 minutes, it's totally cool. If you want to play the whole thing, well, maybe we'll make special circumstances. But on the shorter games, we'll go through them all for sure. But that's a great etiquette point. And do not be afraid to talk to the vendors. Don't be afraid to talk to the designers. And definitely dig in with the booths, because it's a great experience. Anything else on that particular topic? We've almost run the gamut here, so I'm going to open the floor up to a couple of questions. We're going to keep it very brief on the one question per person. Does anybody have anything from the floor that would like to come up and ask any of the panelists about selecting your games, or whatever you would like? Well, except for Tom, he's got a list. Anybody? Oh, this many people. Yes, go ahead.
What's your top 3 games right now for each year?
I didn't even do the list.
I don't know. I have only a top 1 game. I never used to have a favorite game, and people would just make me say something. So innovation. What I like to play depends on who I'm with, and it varies a lot. And there's no favorite game for the particular thing. It's more just, I don't know. I'll play what comes. So.
Are you asking right now or of all time?
Either.
Okay, Cosmic Encounter, Heroescape, Gloomhaven.
What was the third one?
Gloomhaven.
Get out. I gotta get into it now.
Well, right now.
Right now. It's fantastic.
Don't buy it just because Tom tells you.
It's right there. It's waiting for me.
So I'll base the answer to this question on what I'll probably be playing over and over again for the next few weeks, right? So the game I still play the most, and it's mostly because I got my daughter into it since she was 10 and she's now 14, is War Machine, which is a miniature war game. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
That's
so
great.
I play that. She paints now and everything. She runs Circle. I have Signar and Trollbones, so we play regularly with that, so I play that a lot. I know Tom likes these too. I really enjoy campaign-based games. Old school D&D guy, so I like anything campaign. I used to be really into Descent. I'm playing Seafall now, so I love the legacy games. So Seafall, and I know Tom will probably throttle me here, but I actually enjoy Seafall. It's really
You can enjoy it.
Don't be a hater, Tom. and thirdly, I would say right now that I'm playing, that I would say is one of my favorite games also, that's also a it's sort of a dungeon crawling game, is actually Level 7 Omega Protocol, which is not probably super popular, but it was put up by Privateer Press a few years ago. It's a sort of like, I always describe it as XCOM the board game, which is a terrible description now because there literally is XCOM the board game. It's not, but you're basically controlling little commando guys going through, Area 51. But I think it's got the best overlord mechanics. So I like games where one player is the evil villain and everybody else is the party. And it's definitely by far they've done the best job. Not the world's greatest components, but the overlord mechanics are really cool. So those are my three.
The game that I really want to play with my 7-year-old daughter, and she doesn't want to play with me anymore, is Catan Jr. It is so much fun to play with kids of various ages. I've played it as low as 4 or 5 and as high as 10 or 15. And they get it. They really enjoy it. The one that I'm having so much fun with personally right now is Scythe, like my gaming group that gets together like once a month, like we want to play more Scythe. And the other one that I'm just having an interesting time presenting and sharing with new people that have not seen it before is Kingdom Death. And I think it's a controversial game for a lot of reasons. And it takes the right people that are kind of aware of what's in the box when you open up the box. But I think it's just got some really interesting co-op mechanics. And I think it's a really good campaign game. So that's, I only mentioned those three because I just finished Pandemic Legacy.
Yeah, right now I'm a big Scythe fan as well. I've been playing that a lot. I just got a copy of Glory to Rome, which is not the super ugly one, and it's so amazing. And Gloomhaven, I literally just got it last week, but I've just been playing it nonstop. It's really good so far.
is good. Other questions from the floor? Go ahead.
So when you're playing games, not for review purposes, but for fun, how do you keep them having consequences? Like me and my friend, we play games so often that winning's like, hey, you won. Okay, so what? Like, how do you keep that thrill of winning in your heart?
You win.
Get good.
I guess I'll let the other guys answer this. I don't. It's fun to win, but it's about playing the game. I don't really. I mean, winning's cool. You can brag about it a little bit, but I don't care if there's a thrill or not. I just got to play the game. That's exciting.
I love it when interesting things happen. Just kind of like, I enjoy being the fifth person in a 4-player game. I also like watching other people win spectacularly. I like being defeated in incredible ways. I like seeing it work. You know, it's not about winning for me. It's about the system making a good story and making a good experience for everybody at the table.
But there are some games where that's a dangerous problem.
Yeah.
Because there are some games that have no win condition unless someone tries to win.
That's true.
Old school Talisman is my favorite example. Because just go for the crown, for God's sake. Just you're level 35, just go for it.
No, there's one more sword than
one more sword. I'm going to be a toad again. So there are hard. It's hard, and I do try to drive the players to win. But I don't have that problem in my family. My daughters always gang up against me. And I always forget a rule at some point because I play so many different games. I always forget one rule, and they're convinced I forget exactly the right rule so that I'll win. It never works out that way, but that's what they think. So I don't know. I guess it's just having that competitive edge and really trying to play to win. I never, even when teaching a game though, I always play to win, always. And I think that's part of it, right? If you sometimes play to not win, then it'll teach you other players in your group to not care about it. So that makes sense.
I think it's important to play to win if you are a teacher, mostly because you show how the game works.
Yep.
Right.
Also, if you're a designer demonstrating your game, you show that you know what you're doing.
But it isn't. It's different.
No. I know. But if you lose your own game, they're 20% more likely to buy it. Just throwing that out.
If you show me that you can beat me, that means there's something for me to learn.
That is true.
To get better.
I see it.
That's right.
There's playing to win when you're teaching, and there's playing to punish. Never play to punish. Play to win.
Other questions? Over there.
I was just wondering how you guys feel about legacy games that you can like only play through once, either with a script or with a certain set of events that happens. So you can't have a replay value.
I think they're awesome. My favorite game experience of Spiel 2012, the game convention in Germany, Spiel 2012 was Time Stories. Now, the game wasn't released for 4 years, but I played it in 2012, and it was the best experience that I had. And those memories of playing that with those people in that situation was fantastic. And I did the same thing with Pandemic Legacy. The two best people in my group who I love to play with, so you're already like primed to like this game, and playing it with them was just a fantastic experience. And I'm not looking to play the game again. I've got that experience locked away of playing with them, so that's fine for me.
Yeah, I agree. It's amazing. It's fun. I find that most of the people who complain that, oh, you can't replay it, buy games, play them twice, stick them on a shelf anyway. So to me, you're playing a legacy game 12, 13 times, but like Time Stories, you play 2 or 3 times usually, for a scenario. And again, that's amazing. It's cheaper than taking some friends out to a movie. And it's one of the best, Time Stories is also some of the best experience I've ever had in my life playing a game. You say, remember the time we played Catan that one time? No, but I remember every Time Stories game I ever played.
Yeah, and then maybe this ties in with the gentleman's question earlier about how you have that experience, that thrill to win. I mean, there's a couple different types of games across that range. The legacy ones have that sort of story-driven event.
Yeah.
And then there's other games where I play Quirkle with my wife, and it's the game where we have tea and cookies and we got music on, and we're just playing and just chilling out here, doing this kind of background noise.
Yeah, I agree. The legacy games are amazing. I think they're a really cool concept, and I think what's interesting is I don't think the problem with them is you can't play them more than once. if you believe that's really a problem, I would recommend using an app to log your games, and there's a bunch of good ones out there, because you'll find that games you think you play all the time, you play like 5 times a year, maybe 10 times a year. And so a legacy game that has like 15, 20, like Seafall's got like 25 plays in before it's done, that's a lot. The biggest problem I have with legacy games is you're really locked into one group of people. And so that's really where it's challenging, because once you start playing with that group, you don't really want to change it. So if you do have a large gaming group and one of your friends that you really want to play the game with is only semi-reliable, then it becomes a challenge. That is the one downside, but I think they're wonderful. I like them.
I agree with everything that's been said.
Yeah, and another thing is that you feel pressured to play that game week after week until you're done with it a little bit. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but if there's a lot of games that you want to play,
we were kind of done with Pandemic Legacy, but
yeah.
Maybe to tie into that question too, is just what I like, someone asking about favorite games, what I like is just the range of game design. I like to see what people have created, and that's just sort of, what have you made? And it's kind of a cool thing that you can interact with this system, this different alternate world that someone has made. And so a legacy is one thing that happens, and then there's just this huge area to explore that goes out there. So I don't know. I would hate someone not to make that just because it's a one-time thing. Because lots of things are one-time things.
Yeah.
Right? Like your life.
That was deep.
Seriously. And that's all the time we have, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the floor? Right here.
You're in a game store, your phone's dead. How do you know games worth getting?
And your phone's dead?
Yeah, so you can't look up on BoardGameGeek.
We'll play.
Go home, get your phone.
You're in the store, your phone's dead.
Can I share an analogy? Can I share a story?
You're the moderator.
Oh, okay, wait. So I was in my friendly local game store the other day, and I came across this game called First Class. And I had not heard of it. I'd heard inklings of it. And usually I've heard of something. And I saw it, and I took the box off the shelf, and it was this generic, nondescript box cover with a woman sitting on a train, and it said First Class. It was obviously about trains. I flipped it over, and I was like, oh, card drafting and some cards. I was like, this looks about as generically Euro as you can get, and I said, that's got to be good. And I bought it, and it was awesome. And it's one of the best games I've played. So it's sometimes just your gut, you know, it depends on what you like, and in that instance, thankfully I was right. But in the end, I was like, maybe I'm not $35. I want to try it. But
I don't recommend that. I don't think you should buy a game uninformed. There's too many bad games out there.
I disagree. No,
I disagree with that.
If you have your game store might not do this, but I worked in one in the early 90s where we did, where you want to look at the game, well, tear off the shrink wrap. Open it up, you read the rules, you check it out, you throw the cards, because we have a shrink wrap machine in the back, and we'll just seal it back up again if you don't want it. And not many stores will do that, maybe, but maybe yours will, because the benefit is you're more likely to, hey, make a sale if someone can actually look and see, this is perfect, that's what I want. You can hope.
if you're any of your owners, or if you know the owners of your FLGS, encourage them to do that, because they're going to make more sales in the long run. I mean, it's just good product. And also having a good game library for people to test things out. Anything else to add?
Yeah, it's sort of a foreign concept to me, to be honest, because I'm one of those people who do ridiculous amounts of research on, like, you know, what kind of water bottle to get or whatever. So I would recommend doing that. I think most people do that in their
You would not even enter the game store.
What's that?
Your printed out sheets of research.
Yeah. I got an itinerary and everything I need to stick to.
So I have a thing when I go to conventions, I buy one game I've never heard of and I know nothing about. Just one, but I always do it. Sometimes it's been awesome. Russian Crush one year, I got that. It was a pretty good game. Russian Crush was solid. I didn't know anything about it. But at a game store, talk with people that are there. A lot of the gamers that are hanging out have played them before. But I just did this the other day. I was in a gaming store, and Assault of the Giants was sitting right there. And I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't heard it. I hadn't even seen Tom's show about it. Oh, they just actually literally I bought it, and on the car or on the way home, I'm turning on the Dice Tower to the podcast, listening. Has Tom listened to this? Try this game yet? I already bought it because it had. I'm going to make a mistake. It's too late now, right? But it appealed to me. It had the right visuals. I'm a very graphic person, and I happen to know the designer of the game. I mean, I played those games before, so I was like, wait a minute, I knew this person. So there's clues in the game box that can help you at least know you're not heading down a really dangerous path.
Yeah.
We got time for one quick question.
She is jumping at her seat.
Go right ahead.
She really is.
I was wondering if you guys had any recommendations for teaching people how to play games who have English as a second language.
I would try to pick a game that, first of all, try not to pick a game that has too much text in it. That's pretty obvious. I found that when I did this, I did whole classes where I taught people. You eventually learn. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I'll tell people my second language is ESL. Because I'm pretty good at talking to people who have English as a second language because I dealt with that so much in Korea. But you learn how to break concepts down to simple terms, as if you were, not to be condescending at all, but as if you're doing it to a child. You should be doing that anyway when you teach games. Always making them clear. Start with the goal, and then just how do you get to the goal, and every exception in the game, deal with that when it happens, not at the beginning.
I mean, we've talked about BoardGameGeek a lot here, but there's so many resources and localizations available on BoardGameGeek. I popped open a few acres of snow, and like 4 languages worth of manuals fell out of that. I got rid of them because the box wouldn't close after I took the shrink wrap off. That's a luxury. You don't often get that when you've got a brand new game. But there's so many different files. Create an account, log in, download them, add it to them, done.
Yeah, great quick reference cards in all the languages.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. To add to that, yes. Start with the goal. How do you win? You have the most, you're the last one there, you're the first one past the finish line. Beyond that, put the components in people's hands and start playing before doing, like, do the rules as you play. Do those, it's an introductory game. Don't worry about teaching everything in advance, but just move the things around with them and just learn that way. That's sort of the problem with board games is you have the manual first and then you sort of get to the game later. So you try to like push people into the game sooner. Just don't worry about winning. Just, here, I'm going to teach you this as you do this. You'll make stupid decisions, but just keep going. Just keep doing this way. It's not like Agricola was first taught. When Agricola was introduced, it was introduced as a video game, in a sense, because it had the game on the table, and they say, here's your cards in your hand, and they say, do you want to do this, this, or this? This was at the demo from Lookout Games, and you just choose one. Well, there's actually like 15 choices you can make, but they said, do this, this, or this. Okay, I'll do that. Next player, do this, this, or this. And choose something. It doesn't, you don't need all the choices at first. Just do something, and then see what happens. And you learn by doing, rather than trying to process it all first.
We try to structure our demos like that a lot too. Just get people into the games and testing out, moving things around, and understand the consequences, All right, well, we're out of time, unfortunately, but thank you all for joining us here. Thank you for all the panelists. If you see anyone in the halls, want to ask them further questions, say hey, or just, have some fun with them playing games, just come on out and say hello. Thanks for coming.